أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلائق أجمعين، حبيبنا وسيدنا المصطفى الأمين بالقاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين الغر الميامين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، مهدي هذه الأمة وخاتم الأئمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة بن الحسن العسكري، روحي وأرواح العالمين الترى مقدم الفداء. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واعلموا إنما أموالكم وأولادكم فتنة وإن الله عنده أجر عظيم. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeatedly in the Quran, in many surahs and many verses, He mentions and repeats something that you cannot go through this life without. And that is a test. Different tests, different people. But one thing is definite and for sure, is that you need to go through a test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His infinite mercy, He tells us these tests. It's like, you are upon an exam, and which a lot of people, they say, we don't know which exams we're gonna have, what the exam's gonna be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are gonna be the questions. These are your tests, and these are the questions that I'm gonna ask you about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah says that وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ, that you're going to be receiving these calamities. And وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ is something for sure. Is that it's for everyone. Not for a group of people other than other group. Even for the prophets? Yes, even for the prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, didn't He test the prophets? Didn't He test Adam, ala nabina wa alayhi afdal salatu wa salam, the first creation? He tested him. Didn't He test Ibrahim, ala nabina wa alayhi wa alayhi afdal salatu wa salam? He tested him with what? With his own son. Didn't He test Nuh, ala nabina wa alayhi afdal salatu wa salam? The difference between the prophets and us in regard of the test, He tells them what the tests are and what's going to be. For us, it's a general thing. Either this or that. Maybe someone will be tested with his wealth, some with his kid, some with his crops. So different, like we don't know which test we're going to receive. It's going to be a test for sure, which we don't know. The prophets, they know about the test. So why should we not know about the tests? It's for a good reason as well. So when Ibrahim ala nabina wa alayhi afdal salatu wa salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him that I will test you with your kids. Right? What kind of tests? To slaughter him. It's truly a test that not a lot of people can even think about, yet alone to do it. And He actually wanted to do it. If it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will to stop the knife. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that He will test you with three things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him He will test him with what? To see how his patience are. And the Prophet ﷺ said that I have the beautiful phrase that Rasulullah ﷺ used is this that أسلم لأمرك يا رب ولا قوة لي على الصبر إلا بك, that I will give everything that I have for you, that that I submit everything to you, and I cannot have patience but by you. Beautiful. So with what? With three things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to him. The first one is hunger. To the very end, I mentioned this before. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it wasn't like 3 consecutive days that he was full. Of what? Of bread, a normal wheat bread, a normal bread. Doesn't go like 3 days that he's full. One day he will be hungry. One day he will be hungry. Allahu Akbar. At least to the very end. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa sallam alayhi witnessed to that. And he said to someone who asked him, he said that Rasulullah left this life like this. Says, I submit. The second one, that they will call you a liar. They will chase you off. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, I submit and I will have patience. You know what I submit and I have patience is? In terms of what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you are a truly muscular person with authority, right? With a lot of people backing you, can someone look at you sideways without you scaring him, without you going after him? Someone is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept his dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes that promise from him. That you will not do dua against my creation. What else? The third one, I think, is the most toughest out of them all. That what will happen to your household and to your family after you? Will you have patience? And he said yes. So that's why one of the things is, out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, we don't know what's the test going to be. But there's going to be a test, no matter what. And imagine if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would tell someone that your test will be your son. So I'm not going to get married. I don't want this test. Your test will be the car that you're driving. I'm not going to even buy a car. You know, that's how we think. We want to prevent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's tests and the calamity that we're going to receive. We want to avoid that every way possible. But there is no avoiding that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the verse that I recited in the beginning, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ أَمْوَالَكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. And know that your wealth and your children are but a trial, and that with Allah is a great reward. If you think about, okay, your wealth, I understand, but my kids, the majority of people's kids, not gonna be like the kid of Zubair, Abdullah, right? The majority of people, kids, they love their kids love them, they love them back. So that's the 90% at least of the humanity. But what kind of test is this? Is that something bad? Are kids bad or not? Wealth, when it's excessive wealth, it's going to be bad. People are going to do crazy things when they are wealthy. But usually people, the majority of people, but what are they going to do if they have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the kid and wealth. Right? Why? In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarifies in another verse in a different chapter of the Quran, a different surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كل نفس ذائقة الموت ونبلوكم بالشر والخير فتنة وإلينا ترجعون. Every soul will taste death, and we test you with evil and with good as a trial. So some things and some stuff are evil in itself, but something even good, it will be a test. Even good things will be tests, right? Even halal money going to be a test. Even good kid going to be a test. Doesn't need to be a bad thing. But what? Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I gave you a good kid. What have you done with him? Did you bring him up well? He's a good kid. There's nothing wrong with him. Majority of people, we have a hadith in this regard. They are born Muslim. How they are born Muslim? Oh, no, if you say this to someone like, maybe, especially if it's those Christian Zionists, oh, what are you saying? No, Muslim mean like born on the fitrah. And the fitrah that it's what? The good conscience. But that with love, with no hate. But you will change him. And his father and mother will change his faith and his religion. That's why people who become Muslim, they don't call themselves converts. They call themselves what? Reverts. For this reason. One of the things is that we know it will come sooner or later. If we pass it, we don't know. Sometimes we might have passed a test that we don't know about. What did we say after that test? What did we do? We don't know, right? Sometimes a test is individual, for an individual person. He will be tested with something. Sometimes with a whole family. Sometimes with a tribe, like the Israelites, right? The Israelites were all tested. A lot of people who were at the times of the prophets, the tribes and the nation they were tested. Sometimes the test is like a worldwide. The whole world will be tested. Like what's going on, right? Either you are with the evil or with the good, right? There is nothing in between now. There is nothing. Sometimes this is the kind of a test for everyone who sees it. Someone with conscience, I'm not talking about like Lindsey Graham or these kind of corrupt politicians. Like most politicians are corrupt anyways. They can be sold and bought like every hour, and they change their position. I'm talking about common folks. When they see what's going on, they reach a point, say, no, this is wrong. Which side are you going to take? And that's sometimes the test of the whole world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us successful and to be fully submitted like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to him, and to rely upon him with the sabr and patience. إنه لي التوفيق. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد.